look okay or have the glasses and see.
All right. We're in the middle of
We're
talking,
on.
so we're live. This is natural. Again, man, this is no fluff. It is what it is. Now it may look nice and fancy on my screen, but I'm with some of the best people that I could be talking to in this panel and just in life right now. I'm super excited. So let's get all like the nitty gritty stuff out of the way. I am Bradford Harris, and welcome everybody. This is a Ticker Tech EDU LinkedIn live session. So again, if you haven't seen any of my stuff, I stream, I do all the things. So just make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to get all of your content that deals with digital learning, emerging tech, esports, all those things. But that is not why I am here today. I'm here because there has been some things that have been on my mind for like the past couple of years, especially in these past couple months. And it's so timely right now because school has ended. It's graduation time, or it has been graduation time, and young adults have been transitioning. And this has been on my mind a lot, not just in this past month, but like I said, for some years. And who better to have to talk about this, but with some great panelists. So here's what I'm going to do first, because I'm going to do something with a twist. I want you guys, let me say his name right. Alex and then Deb, but I call him Gibby. I don't know if anybody else calls him Gibby. I call him Gibby.
Just about everyone.
Oh, cool. I want you guys to introduce yourselves and what you're currently doing right now. But after you do that, I want to know, what was your first paying job where you got a paycheck from somebody, and what did you learn about it? What did you like about it? So I know that I just dropped that bomb, but that was my moment. So I'm gonna start with Gibby first.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Gibson. I'm a math and computer science teacher in York, Pennsylvania, where I teach at York County School of Technology. And I teach our applications of algebra and geometry, which is basically like a personal finance class. And I teach computer science, an intro course for some of our students. And I'm one of our esports coaches for after school programming as well. What was my first job? My first job that I ever got a paycheck from was a company that was near my family's home in Western Pennsylvania. And I just mowed the lawns and fields for this large 5,000 acre compound, basically. And I got to literally mow every field every day, and it just rotated throughout the week. And it was interesting work. I now have a lot of thoughts on how I mow my own yard because of the way that I was trained by my manager at that time, which was also my dad's best friend in high school. So I had an in, which was nice. But yeah, so and I feel like that was early 2000s. So I was only making $5.25 an hour at that place, and I was busting my butt to get everything done in the week. And then if it rained, it was, you can't mow that because you don't want to tear up the lawn. We want to make it look nice. So it was a lot about presentation and, hard work, definitely.
Does it bug you ever when you see the way people cut grass or the way you see lawn cut, it's like, oh my God, let me stop my car and go cut it?
Well, I don't want to go cut anybody else's. I'll be honest. Mine is not looking so hot right now because our mower needs a new blade, but I do have a lot of thoughts about how my yard looks now. I don't mind as much as how other people's is going to end up, because that's not something I have to go home to every day. And then definitely whenever the neighbors mow, I'm like, oh, I got to get on this now too, because I've got to keep up with everyone else in the neighborhood. So
up in the neighborhood, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Deb, how about you? Go on ahead and just introduce yourself, what you're currently doing, and your first W-2 job.
Good job. I know, right? Wow. So I'm Deb Fuller. I'm a game-based learning designer, instructional designer, and currently I have 3 jobs in a trench coat. I like to say that the portfolio career. We'll probably talk about that. I'm a contractor with an ed tech company developing curriculum, financial curriculum right now, which is a lot of fun. And then I also do training for Digital Labs with Becky Keene. Lots of people on
Nice.
no Becky,
Know
yeah.
her? Yep.
So I do AI, yeah, AI and Minecraft training. So excited about working with DC Public Schools next week.
Oh,
And do
nice.
some yeah, basic AI. So it'll be great. I'm really looking forward to it and working really talking to teachers about that because I think it's really there's there's so much that teachers misconceptions and whatever. And I also teach for the Center for Talented Youth run by Johns Hopkins University.
Nice.
So I do course development for that. I mainly am in the upper elementary range in humanities. So I'm gearing up to teach writing and imagination course in a few weeks. So I've got it's a new course for me. I'm actually excited about teaching that. So, um, and that's what I do. And my first W-2 paying job. So I was a senior in high school, like other than babysitting or occasionally working for my uncle who owned a pharmacy. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, well, City Drug. It's like it was a pharmacy, like a CVS pharmacy, but it was a local independent. And so, like, he's in Alabama. He's in or was in Anniston, Alabama. So I'd when I go and visit, that was the cool thing to do to hang out as the cashier and with my uncle and the cashier. And well, he'd be behind the pharmacy. I mean, I could do that. Like, I didn't handle the drugs, but like the cashier thing was a lot of fun. I learned how to do money and whatnot, and also got unlimited candy. So, like, what else? And like they would just let me run the cashier, which the cash register. So and this is like the old days, but we didn't have computer cashiers, so I learned to count backwards and do like all the money handling stuff. So actually, I brought that into my first W-2 official job. Was at a local music store called Gordon Keller Music. It was mainly a piano store, but we also rented out instruments for kids like band and orchestra instruments. So yeah, it's like that was so long ago because that was when Reagan wasn't president. Bush was president, senior. It was a while ago.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that what taught me like minimum wage sucked. It was less than I was making for babysitting. Yeah, no, I was making like all at $10 an hour babysitting, and like, minimum wage was like $4.25, I think. And then when I got to college, it was $5.15. I was like, wow.
Amazing.
I,
Wow.
I know, right? And now it's $7.25. I mean, we're living large, right? Money, money, money. But I mean, it taught me, I guess, customer service. It was high school, and I learned like the value of commissions too, because I would get a commission on renting instruments. So I'm like, do you need the extra warranty? And I feel kind of bad about it now, but yeah, but then they were like, oh, I would get a cut of stuff like that. I'm just like, what? um, and so yeah, it was retail. It was after school and on the weekends occasionally. And it's funny that building is still there because Gordon Keller retired, sold the business or whatever. Nobody buys pianos anymore. Um, and but the building's still there, and it's now like a little bistro. So every time I walk in there, I'm just like, and this is where our showroom used to be, and that's where this used to be.
Nice.
Weird. Yeah.
I love that. For me, I will say now I will preface that my parents did not want me to work. They were, I'm sure, like yours too. Yours too. Like they were like,
Yeah. What do you need a job?
you need to focus on school. School is your job. But the minute you get older, you're gonna want your own money. You get tired of asking your parents for money, and they need to say you need to save, you need to do this. But I'm like, well, I need a job to do that. So it's funny that you mentioned music because those of y'all who know me, maybe or not know me or whatever, I was in marching band for years, and when it was time to, for when I got older, I'm like, I want some money. And then I'm gonna shout him out. His name is Lamar Burkhalter. And he was my first W2 job because he had a consulting business on the side. And it was stuff that I already knew. Of course, I knew how to march. I was in drumline. So I knew how to do all of those things already at 17 and 18. And I was making, gosh, Lamar, don't quote me on this. It was some good money for what I thought, like maybe like between $10 and $12. And in marching band is an all 2 months. Back in my day, it was like a 12-hour thing. So like I was making money. And not only did I teach my high school, but I traveled around like some of the Houston, Texas circuit with him and helped, train. So I learned a lot about how different people operate. It wasn't just me by
Yep.
myself behind, a counter or whatever. Or like I was really talking to people and really looking at what you need to do with the music, how you need to count your steps, how you need to position yourself, how to count things out. Like it was so many layers. And that it was rare to get a job like that. Like, he pulled me in. He was like, this is better. I remember his quote. He said, "It's better than flipping burgers." I'm like, shoot, I'll do it. It's something that I already know. I'm already ready to go. I just need rides from here to there. But, I was pulling in. I mean, I wasn't banking, but, for a 17, 18-year-old that doesn't have to pay rent, doesn't have to have taxes or all that stuff, you're doing pretty good. So yeah, that was it. That was great. And I heard a common theme here. Like we're all young. Somebody's taking us under their wing, and it's not just a W2 job for, in a sense, it's more of, let me show you the ins and outs of the business. I think that's the common thread I heard from all of us is it was let me show you how, yeah, you're gonna get paid to do this, but I'm gonna show you how the operation works. I heard that from you, Deb. I heard that from you, Gibby. So that's why we're here too, is that transition. What does that look like? And I put everything into what, 4 or 5 categories. I have transition into adulthood and uncertainty, confidence, rejection, and personal growth. The rejection is a big one for me, y'all. Uh, digital life, AI, and workforce readiness. And then just conversations we need more of. And so, and for anybody that's in the LinkedIn Live in the chat, feel free to just ask questions. We are not, well, I'm not expert. I'm not going to say you guys are or not, but I'm going to say as a group, we are not the HR experts. We are not the gurus of this is how you need to do this and this is how you need to build your resume. All of us have had side conversations about that, but this is about like life. This is about like getting some truths out there. What is it that you need to learn? Like, Gibby just had a daughter that turned 13, and Gibby, I'm putting you on blast for a second. Your daughter is about to ask you some adult questions pretty soon that deal with work, and this stuff. And this stuff, I'm sure that's gonna come later, but how to make that money, what job should I get, things like that. I'm still having these conversations with my 20-year-olds. Deb, we talk almost every day about, let's talk about this, what's going on with this. So I don't know what one question to ask right now, I guess. And I'm looking at my questions, and I'm going to put one on the chat, but I got one to kick us off, and I have to find it, but I'm going to ask it in my questions. And I want you to say whatever comes to mind. My first question is under the transition into adulthood and uncertainty. And it's, what's something you wish someone had told you before entering the world of work and adulthood? If you could go back to, let's say, we'll go in our 20s. We'll just skip to our 20s. We've already graduated high school. But what is something that someone wished they had told you before you entered the workforce or in adulthood that you would tell somebody now? And anybody, feel free to jump in. It doesn't matter. And there's no right or wrong.
And I've been thinking of this most of the day because that's the big thing. We're talking about those transitions. And I think education has changed a little bit, and personal finance is now a broader subject that people are touching on in the high school realm. But it wasn't when I was in high school. So just knowing, all right, you need to start budgeting and knowing where your money's going and what's happening. What are the different ways to think of money? Like, what's your relationship with money? There is a very behavioral thing with it that people learn from, you know, their families, their loved ones that they've lived with. So how can you best make it in the world yourself? And, I moved out 3 hours away from my family for my first teaching job. And I had to start right off the bat. All right, here's what I need to put away for, my rent that's due every month. And all right, now I've got to pay for cable and electric. And how can I make sure that my money is being spent wisely? And, I may have made some hiccups along the way, but, those were also learning points for me that I've got to make sure that I've got enough to make myself last and be able to feed myself and shelter, all the important things.
Yeah, I mean, so piggyback on that. Now I'd be like invest, just because I think, pensions are going away, and like looking, since I'm like not retirement age yet, but I'm closer than a lot of people, and I started, early, like as soon as I got like go back then high school, my high school job, didn't have an investment thing, but like definitely out of college. But at a college, I worked for the Smithsonian, and after I taught for a bit, and then so that had like it was a first savings band or whatever, because I wasn't part of the federal government. I was part of the other side of the Smithsonian, which was what they call trust fund. So it was yeah, but it had but it was nonprofit essentially. So I was like, hey, this is matching, and put that money away. And I remember my best friend at the time, she was trying to get into movie production, and she would go to investment seminars. I'm like, you need to go to investment seminars. We're like 20, 22. But her parents, I don't know why she started going to them, but I think her parents started going to them too. And because maybe her dad was self-employed, like her mom was a nurse and her dad was self-employed. But I just remember doing that and thinking, this is again 30 plus years ago, in the late 90s. And kind of like, oh, I put some money away, but she was like really starting to like look at portfolios and investing and whatever. And I was like, she is probably set for life now. I mean, just for the money that she, even if she didn't do a lot, I'm not sure she's put away money since then. But I'm like, damn it, if I could go back then and start to invest for retirement, which I mean, I just feel bad saying, hey, welcome your college, and let's talk about the end of your life or the end of your career. I mean, it's not the end of your life now, but like the end of your career, right?
Yeah.
And thinking, and you don't want to think about that. You don't want, you're thinking about, oh my God, like you said, like maybe, I'm thinking of rent and being able to afford things. And that's, I think, another big shock. We're like, I have a paycheck. Like I can get this, that, and no, I have to pay for food, and so like sometimes you have that joy of, I have money that I can spend on things that I want. And it can be, silly things like, a nice, like a book that you want, or that nice outfit, or it's even, I can go to Starbucks and not feel like I'm, more, like, budgeting every little thing, or go to the Ren Fair and buy the fun clothes that I've always wanted that I do. So I think that's a big thing. And I think now it's a lot easier because you've got so many apps, and that like, and I just
Mhm.
actually I just went to a little seminar on that, on like how to use some of the apps of starting, like, I've got a 401k through work, I've got a personal IRA, and this is also like an investment, like an investment portfolio. And so again, I'm not going to be Warren Buffett anytime soon, forever. But just like, oh, this is like, you just start the app and here's the index funds, and that's kind of basically what it is. Was, okay, okay, easy. And so like, $10, even if you can put away only like $10 a week, um, which hopefully, as starting out people can do over the course of your career, until retirement, it's like 40 plus, years. That, compound interest, like, Gibby is like, hey, let's do the math.
Yeah.
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 It's a great thing.
Yeah, I had classes in high school that I learned how to, write a checkbook, learn how to budget. But I'm gonna be perfectly honest, they were great, but it was more of like I know how to do the math. This is good. I see the real life, but like it didn't really resonate with me. It didn't make the connection with me because number one, I'm a junior senior. I need to take some classes. This is great, but this is what my parents do, and I'm not blaming my parents or anything like that. But it's just like we all, and I listened to a podcast last night. I think we're all trained in the beginning to say, okay, we get this money, it's exciting. What is the first thing that we want to go do? We want to go out and get something. Because I feel like that's what we're taught. No, I'm not blaming parents. I'm not blaming anybody, but it's just that we earn, so we want to reward ourselves. What do we even tell our kids? Now that you saved up $10, you can go get that truck. You can go get that doll, and they're ready to run. But we don't necessarily talk about what I wish somebody would talk to me about is okay, when you get that check, yes, it's exciting. I'm sure you do want to spend on something, but let's think strategically. Where do you want to put that money? And even as a part-timer employee, learn that you have stock options. You have options. Even if you work 10 hours a week, I wish somebody had told me what I know now about go see what you can invest in that company. Even if you work for 2 months, learn how to make your money work for you. And that's the one thing I wish somebody would have told me, not blaming anybody, but learn the way your money works. But again, like in the back of my mind, I was looking at, oh, I got $100. I can go get this game. I still think that right now, but I can go get this. I can go do this because I've worked so hard to get it. And the first thing in my mind is I'm ready to go get something, but not put money away. And not just put money away, but put money away to where it's still working. Because I've also learned that there's a difference in just putting the money away and putting the money away to make it work for you. There are two differences there. And you're right to give me two, like, dang, I gotta pay rent. I gotta do this. I gotta like, whoa, where's the money going? Like, I literally watch my kids' eyes when they get, a check. I'm like, well, shoot, you gotta pay for them tires. You gotta do this. They're like, what? It's not so much anymore about the taxes being taken away. It's about the maintenance of life that you have to deal with too, and what you have to put away. So I hear all of you on that. Anything else you guys want to add to that while I'm looking up another question?
I think like you do need to, reward yourself. I mean, and that's like realistically too. And like like I feel for kids now going out and because like we learned, I'm sure Gibby, like you're like what are the formulas? No more than 30% of your income goes to rent, and that's laughable now. I mean, that's I
Mhm.
did like my stepdaughter just got a job. Well, she got a job in February in New York City, and she's got a roommate. Um, and she pays more for one room in New York City than my husband and I do for our apartment. Um, and and she makes less than we do. I mean, she still makes decent money, but any place else it would be like, oh, you can probably afford your own apartment. But in New York City, it's roommate money, and we
Mhm.
saw her over spring break and she was just like, like what she wanted for her birthdays around spring break because she wanted us to pay for her manicure, and which I think is like, yeah, I mean, I'm not one to talk here, but and that's one of the things I guess she kind of budgets in for and stuff, and then she does like go out with her friends and stuff, but she's very, she would talk about, it's like, oh, now the parents are here. I can have the second drink at dinner, or I know it's like drinking with your daughters here, um,
Yeah.
and or whatever. I go out to the nicer restaurants that she normally
Mhm.
doesn't get to go out, and so she is really responsible, with money. But um, yeah, I just like I feel for any kid now who's like looking at wages are down, rent is up, everything is up, and I don't wish. I'm glad people have the skills to budget, but I don't want anybody to live like paycheck to paycheck, and
Right.
that's like
Well,
kind of
that's
my
a lot of my
concern.
seniors were telling me, like, we did a lesson talking about, when are you going to be able to be financially stable on your own, and all of them are okay with staying for 24, 25, 5 or 6 more years with their parents, just so that way they can put a down payment on a decent house and have a little bit more in their pocket. And their parents are okay with that. And that's one thing that our society is changing, that ruling of you must be 18 and get out. It's all right, you can stay until you're financially stable. And the more that families do that, the better off people will be, because they have that support system.
Yeah, I'm also seeing that too. The conversation that I'm having with my kids right now, like my kids, they stay with me, they work, but the biggest struggle that they have, oh, he's fine. The biggest struggle that I know that they're seeing right now is it's not about getting rich or making money, but they do want an apartment, they do want a car, they do want those things, but it just seems so far out of reach because of like, even if they're going to school or not going to school, they're only making so much an hour in the beginning because they're trying to gain those experiences. But apartments cost, I'm being nice, $2,000, and that's just the apartment. There's the
Right.
lights. There
Yep.
you want the Netflix. You want, and these aren't just like a lot of these aren't just luxury things, but like you still want to have that extension of like, I want to kind of sort of live just like how I lived with my parents, but I realized that I can't. And then you say, okay, well, I have to bring roommates in. I flat out told my kids, I said, you know what, y'all can't have roommates. And that's not me being a mean parent. I said because I know how you guys live. um and I'm saying that with love. Like, as much as y'all are learning from me and mom about being independent and doing and making sure bills are paid on time, like, I don't know if you can handle being with somebody else other than your own sibling, because what are you gonna do if you know young Gibby here says, "Oh, dude, you got that extra 500? No, I don't have that extra 500. So what are we gonna do?" Like, they're literally, it's so surprising right now. I'm not gonna get into it, but I'm listening to them having these conversations right now with their peers on trying to figure it out where to get the money, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I said, like, I, you know, so and for particular reasons, some of them have kids just they have to leave, not because parents kick them out, but it's like there's certain situations where, okay, I got to go over here so I can make peace. But at the same time, they're going through all this struggle. They see the dollar signs and like, well, how am I supposed to get that if I'm only working 20 hours a week and I'm only making this much, and every week my money is gone. I'm like, and those are hardcore conversations to have. And so I, like you said, this is what they're going through right now. This is definitely what they're going through right now. Um, I'm gonna hit the ground running with this question, and it's rejection. uh, I can't speak for y'all personally, but I thought this is something that does hit home for me. The question is, how do we as adults actually deal with rejection without losing that confidence? So I'll put myself on blast. Like, me losing jobs, being unemployed, doing all those things, mm, my kids hadn't seen that until they got into their 20s. I did experience that when they were little, but they don't remember that. They only remember, like, okay, this part. And so there is a fear with that. And so I'm just asking you guys for, in your opinion, like, how do you think as adults we deal with that job rejection, or or whatever rejection, without losing that confidence and skill sets that we have? What are your thoughts on that? It's a hard question because
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
I think so. Like ages ago, a therapist said, I was going like I started out um after working, classroom, Smithsonian, and then getting into instructional design. I worked for Department of Defense, and that was like I worked for the same agency 4 times with 4 different companies because 9/11 happened and layoff. And it was like I would always come back like the next year, but it was like it really does it it really does a number on your confidence. So on the one hand, I'm really good at saving because, I know I don't ever take my job for granted. Um, but on the flip side, I think I've missed out on opportunities. Again, investing, I should have, I think now, well, yeah, I could put a lot more money into invest. That's part of it. But hindsight 2020 and all that. But again, the therapist once said, it's like, hey, but I keep getting laid off because I'm in this, defense contract industry, and she's like, but you always get another job, and I just kind of have to remind myself that, like, but you'll always get another job, and it might not, it sucks, but you just have to it's like it's cliche, but it's like you miss 100% of the shots you never take. So that's, I think, rejection is your chance to reevaluate the situation, and that's what you have to look at. Like now, it's not. It's the job market sucks. It's the worst I've ever seen it, and everybody's saying it, and it's a numbers game. I mean, and I have a friend who's an HR recruiter for tech companies, and he's like literally, within, I had 3 jobs open, and within a day we had 1,000 applicants between all 3 of those jobs. 1,000 for tech jobs that used to be a sure. Yeah, and that's one of the. I think the paradigm is now is there's no paradigm, so you have to say, okay, you know it's the resume game is not all of jobs right now. I mean, and I can't compete with 1,000 people. I mean, that is literally going to be picking names out of a hat at that point, because out of 1,000 people, at least half of them are going to have the same qualification. So how do you get around all that? And I think that's what you take that downtime to do, is you network. You see, well, can I get a skill that maybe, or experience? And we've all done that. I mean, Bradford, you and I have had hours of conversations about this.
Yeah.
And I think that's good, but it gives you that resilience of, okay, well, that's a no, but there's always yeses around the corner, and you might, what other opportunities are out there? Where can I get my skills? Who do I know? And really work that. And it's tough. It really is tough. And sometimes I'm just like, and I have friends that are my age that like have, that are like, yeah, I'm just basically retired now. And I'm just like, I hate you. Not personally, but I don't have that luxury. And I'm glad that some people do. It still sucks to get laid off because, ed tech industry, most of my team has been laid off from the last couple of years, which is sucks. And so I'm glad that they have partners that, in houses and more stable living situations where they can just like, yeah, I'm just taking some downtime. But I'm just like, I'm not that way, because I know, that, I don't know when the next job's going to come, and it usually, it used to be like 6 months, a year or something, what the hiring cycle is, but now it's just like, whatever. So, and a lot of times things come when I'm not expecting it. Like the job I have now that I'm contracting, somebody contacted me, which is like, what? What?
Yeah.
You really? Okay, sure. Like you're just like, hi. I've just applied to so many jobs that I'm 110% qualified for. And then like,
Yeah.
And then, out of the blue, someone's like, hey, we've got this job for you. And I'm just like, or would you like to do this? We have this position. I'm just like, sure, absolutely. Oh, so yeah, and then it's like you said, all bets are off. So you just, I don't know.
I've learned to be that way. I've learned now in this process, and this is something that I want to tell young people too. Yes, there is a need for, when you have that job loss, when you have that rejection, that yes, you need to try to find one as soon as possible. But at the same time, what I've learned throughout this journey is I also need time to grieve that death of that loss. Because one of the things that I know biggest mistake that I made was I had to jump to keep things going. Why? Because we know that, okay, rents due, bills due, this. Those are in the back of your mind. The biggest regret that I had is I didn't have time to, even just for a day or two or whatever, like, okay, stop, pause, whether you did something right or wrong, no matter what the job loss was, like there needs to be a grieving process that you need to go through and give yourself some time to think. My mistake was, okay, I'm gonna go on to the next, because I had 20-year-olds and I wanted to model and I wanted to show like, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna pick yourself back up. You're going to keep going. But I never grieved. So for any young people who are out there, take the time to just sit. No, you can't do it for like 5 months, even though you know you want to. Even though I want to, but like take time to grieve that. Yell, fuss, cuss, do whatever it is that you need to do internally, maybe externally, not your current employer or that let you go or whatever. But like, take that time to grieve, so then you can go back and go, okay, what were the skill sets that I gained from that job? What were some things that I can take that I learned from that job that I liked or did not like, and move it to the next and be productive in it? Because we all know they're gonna ask that question. So what did you like at your previous job? What did you not like at your other job? And if you hadn't had time to really sit and go and assess that, those are hard questions. So Gibby, I'll give you the floor too. So what do you think?
Yeah, so this one's a big one because it was about 2 years ago now that I actually was I lost my first job. So that was quite the shock. Everything just kept coming up Gibson all the time, and I never had that shock. And like you said, you need to process, and I didn't formally grieve it as well either, but I put myself back out there and had hundreds of applications and multiple rejections, no calls, nothing, and then I finally landed back in the classroom, and it was quite the process to go from, a job that was 9 to 5 and I had to keep going all year long back into a classroom. Now I have my summers off again, which is awesome. It's there's give and take, and I recently took some students back to my last job because it was at a university level instead of the high school level, and it just felt so cathartic to know that I didn't have to run the show and be in charge of all the high schoolers that were there, and I was a part of the event, but I didn't have to run the show. So it was different and it felt better. Like I had a little bit of time away from there, and I felt better about why the loss of that job happened. It was a complete restructure because of finances, and a lot of middle management directors and such lost their job that summer, and I was just one of them. So I tried not to take it personally. I thought maybe if I could have done a better job, they would have wanted to keep me, or but it wasn't that. It was just money, and it was business. And every company that you go to work for, they'll just find the next person. If you end up leaving or there's some kind of transition, they'll find the bodies, they'll get the people that'll work and do the things, and you shouldn't just hold your identity to that job.
I would say, like, on a practical standpoint, as soon as you get laid off, like, you get that, take 24 hours. I mean, if we're talking about like layoffs or whatever, take 24 hours, you know, you're going to get your severance package or whatever. And this is something I wish I would have known like a while ago. I was like, oh man, again, everything's negotiable. So you say, thank you. What's the time period on this? You don't respond right away, and then you look through it, and then you come back with, and then you can, and talk to coworkers or, former coworkers or whatever, but look at it. And if you think that you deserve more, hey, I put X number, because usually the severance formula is like so many dollars, so many, whatever, certain amount of money per year worked or something or whatever. And then, sometimes you cash out your time off, and you might get some, whatever, they'll pay your health insurance for a couple of months or so. Sometimes that happens. But there's a lot of things that you can negotiate. And I think that's like watching podcasts. Like there's a lot of HR people now that are on podcasts that tell you how to do that, and you get a lot more. Or you can get a lot more, and it puts you in a better position, and it also teaches you how to negotiate, which is, again, I've been laid off a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know that. And the second thing you do is, as soon as you get laid off, go to unemployment and sign up for that, because it takes a while for that to, while your payments are being paid out, the system is slow as all get out. You'll probably have to get on the phone with somebody and talk to them personally, because the online system sucks. And free, and you'll like
26.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, like, it's just easier to go to the employment office and go here, and then figure out how that works. Figure out what you need to do to get your check every week, and why, how to report it, and and get that system moving, because if you wait, then there's going to be a gap between like when your final payment from your job happens and when your unemployment checks start rolling in, and most people will need that check right away, and you
Yeah.
don't have time to then be, oh, I need to apply, and then find out it's going to be like 3 or 4 weeks before everything gets processed through the system. And they'll give you the back check, but what do you do? The whatever. So I think those are the two big things is, figure that out. And, so you're set up in the unemployment system and you're ready to go as soon as your severance payments stop. And secondly, talk to HR and try and negotiate a better severance on
Yeah.
that, and see if that, and you might even run things in front of a lawyer too. There's lots of unemployment lawyers out there, and that will give you a free consult, and you might be able to leverage that. But or you might not. The only the worst thing that can happen is they say no. They can't resend your letter. They can't say, well, you're not getting anything. But I think those are things that, again, like, I wish I would have known.
I want to
I mean,
stay on that for a quick second. But before I ask this question, here's one thing I am gonna say. All three of us in this box, in this panel, I this is the one thing that bugs me. All of us in here, we have a common theme. We are instructional designers. We are tech driven, and I'm just gonna say it because yes, I've been in that unemployment space. We all have, but you talked about that online process. It bugs the hell out of me because I'm like, I could make your process so much better. And I hope you all are listening to this, and I know I'm gonna get bashed for this, but it is a instructional design problem. Uh, Deb, you just said like it's easier just to go to
Yep.
go to in front of them and just get out your grievances, but nowadays that is so it's so complicated to even go face to face, or some people just can't get out there. So that online process in 2026 with AI, again, all three. I'm not trying to get a big head here, but it always bugged me when I go and look. I'm like, this process is ridiculous. I am an instructional designer. There is a flaw in this that I'm already seeing going in myself. I hope you all are listening. I'll even put us on blast, y'all, and I'll take the heat. Like, hey, we can consult you on the side to make this streamlined process a lot better because there are just some gaps, and it just looks like 1986 when you're
Yep.
doing this work. I'm sorry, that's just me being.
No, you're right.
But
right.
Well, I'll say I can teach college level calculus, and I was reading through the unemployment department website, and I still had errors come up that delayed things because I couldn't process this massive amount of text that was in front of me, and I was like, "This is ridiculous." You're right. It needs a complete redesign, and it's state to state, but they all need redesigned.
they do.
They need
And,
something.
and I get the unemployment part. I get that 100%, whatever. But I'm just talking about for those who are listening on this and hearing this, like you're already in this state of shock, or you grieve, like you said, you've taken that time, the 24 hours to rest. The process of going through, and this is not about I need to get my $200 quick. It's really not about that, even though part of it is. But it should be just like, okay, where's my login? How do I do this? Like step, 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 step. And it's not like that. I'm just gonna be completely honest. I'm gonna need y'all to not y'all, but I'm gonna need y'all to lean on these tech people, these instructional designers, because they are actually looking to improve flow like this. Hands down. I'm sorry. Let me stop.
Well, okay, let me say something to this. I'm going to get slightly, probably controversial, but I don't care because
That's fine.
I'm there. I'm going to say it. I'm just that kind of person. But I think a big reason why, the unemployment system or any sort of social system is horrible is because it's a blame system, right? And I think that's starting to shift now when we're seeing massive tech layoffs. So instead of like, oh, well, what did you do? Why did you get laid off? You must have done something wrong, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of like the old thing, it's like that. But I think now that's really starting to shift when we are seeing, big multi-billion dollar companies laying off tens of thousands of people like that. So those 10,000 people that just got laid off from Microsoft, they didn't do anything wrong. They couldn't work any harder. Like Gibby, you said you were a number and you were a cog in a system. And I think because it's happening now, and it's like those unemployment systems, you can definitely tell they were designed for blue collar work, because it's about like, where did you go and put your resume in? And at least in Virginia, I just have a feeling like, like, no, I'm not handing a paper resume to somebody at the whatever, the Starbucks or wherever. I'm a blue collar person. And I think there's some, you know, whatever, there's some leeway for that they're finally figuring out. Oh yeah, somebody who's like in the trades is going to have a different job search process than somebody who's on the
Yeah.
corporate white collar side. But I think,
Yep.
that changing that attitude of any sort of social program, and unemployment's entitlement, meaning we pay into it, so it's our money anyway. you know
Mm.
Fraud does not exist. I mean, fraud might exist, but no one's living on an unemployment check. I mean, come on. My unemployment
Yeah.
check will not even cover rent. So I'm not going to scam the system indefinitely so I can get my $300 a week. That is
Yep.
supplementing my savings until blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And it's also, I think, because it's happening to white working collar people, you can't just say it's your fault. These are master's degree people, long time careers, high salaries, and in industries that was a slam dunk, in industries that we're also, we don't have enough people in the first place, and we're bringing over, H-1B visa people too. So I think that's fun. I mean, it's finally getting through slowly but surely that it's not a personal flaw. It's a flaw in the system,
Yeah.
and we're victims of a system, not a personal failing. And we're but class worse, sort of.
I want to
So
get
that
back to I want to get back to what you said about negotiating and the HR and all that kind of stuff. Now, my question is, and I don't have an answer for this, so I don't know. I want to hear your perspective, but what do you do when they're just pressuring you to like, I'm gonna need you to take this and walk away? And a lot of people are not saying negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. I've been in that place to where like, number one, I'm already down. I feel some kind of way, but I feel pressured to take X just to get it out the way. And there, I'm not trying to say that they're bullying you, but there's certain words to where they're like,
they're bullying you. No, 100% they're bullying you.
Okay, let's call it.
They're bullying you because they want you to go away. Remember, HR works for the company. They protect the company. They do not protect you. And that's hard to swallow, and that's not what we're taught. Sorry, HR people. I know there's some lovely people out there, but the system is designed so that they will not get sued. They're there to make sure the company does not get sued. So it is, and it's hard because it's like one of those life lessons that you learn, like how, like 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 how do you deal with criticism? How do you deal with rejection? How do you deal with somebody who, like, where you've done the right thing and you've been smacked down? I mean, these are life lessons, right? And so I think, yes, the first time you get laid off, it's going to be a deer in the headlights moment, and you're gonna suck. But like the last time I got laid off, I'm like, I knew as meeting is that meeting popped up on my calendar, unexpected meeting with director level position, and I was just like, oh. Of course it is. It's that time of the year. I guess my number came up. So I was,
Yeah.
I was in there, and I think that's something, like, again, there's a lot of really good advice now on the internet. Um, you know, and there's people that I follow, like Erin, you've got this, that lady, with the white hair. She has really good advice about stuff like that, and she will say, stop. This is what you do. Dipali Bias is another really, really great person that I follow that talks about executive level, and this is like the kind of what goes on behind the scenes type thing. And she talks about layoffs, and sometimes you can position yourself to get around those layoffs, but sometimes you don't. And then other HR, like former HR people now who are like, been in the business 30 years. This is what they don't tell you. But I think there's, finding that advice and like at least having it, like knowing it so that you're proactive and you can see, and then like, oh, what's the fudge? There's a law. What is it? That if your company is about to lay off, they have to report it. There's a website. What is it called?
Oh yeah, I've heard about
And it
that.
has to be a certain percentage, though, I think, too, right?
Right. But
So,
like
but
my
yeah,
old company, the pattern was January, July. So everybody held their breath like right after January. Everybody held their breath around July 4th. And then, so then
yep.
announcements would come out. I mean, that's what started. And it was just like, okay, this year, phew, or this, this time, oh my God, these people left and that's horrible, but I'm safe for another 6 months, essentially.
That's
And I think that,
yeah.
yeah, it sucks, but that's what happens.
That's another thing. No matter where you work, part time, full time, for whatever, beginning, vet, whatever, know the pattern of your work organization. I'm not talking about the small work in your organization that you do, but learn it as a full. And you just talked about like, okay, January, July, it's or Q1, Q4, whatever it is. Start learning where the number losses are. I'm not saying that to scare you, just to get in that reality of this is where now you start need to learning about the data of where you work. Whatever public data is, because obviously the companies aren't going to probably give you their private data, but start learning those insights of okay, if and just I'm making up an example, if McDonald's numbers are low and we're in Q1, how does that correlate with the hours that I'm working? I used to get 30 hours, now I get 15. The math is, so you need to start looking at those things and go, the math is not mathing. Maybe I need to have a conversation and don't jump up and say, okay, I learned about this data, but like, I would like to get more hours. What can I do? Or what's going on? Like start looking at those things. These are things that I had never even thought of, but learn the industry of where you're at and learn what those numbers are, those public numbers. Obviously your supervisor is not going to give you their other numbers, but whatever data that you can get, and you start looking at, okay, I see something that's going on, like you said, in January and July. My Q1, there's something something doesn't really smell right here. Let me see what I need to do. My hours are kind of shifting. I might need to think about whatever your next step is. So speaking of
It's
data,
the Warren Act.
yeah,
That's sorry. It's the Warren Act, WARN.
okay.
And I put the link in the thing, and so I think each state has their own like warn notices and stuff. And I get it, like you said, you don't know. It depends on the state, but there's a lot of fines, and sometimes it is like straight out of whatever. But yeah, and like and you can tell like am I being pushed out? Am I there's this it's this stuff that's when you're 20, you hear about these things, but it doesn't really become real until
until you get
and
until
it
you
sucks.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of tech, we've talked about tech. I was trying not to do a lot of tech stuff, but I want to throw this in there for our young adults out there. And this, I want to hear your opinion. How concerned should young adults be about understanding and using AI as they enter this workforce? How concerned should they be?
110%. Oh, that's the like. So like last November was Parents Weekend, and I was at with my stepdaughter at her college, and and her mother just had gotten Doge too, and like so it's like I was looking for mom's looking for had been reduced, and stuff, and I'm just like I don't know what to tell you, hon. I mean, I feel really horrible, but the only thing I can think of is learn AI. Because she graduated with a psych and business degree. I'm like, and from a really top university, great student, great kid, but speaks Russian fluently. So I'm like somebody who should have really great work prospects. And I'm like, I'm telling you right now, you're gonna have to fight. And she's like, yeah, I know. And it's the kind of the mood was, I don't want to be horrible, like the Debbie Downer, but it is my name.
You need a T-shirt.
But yeah, right. It's like the Karens out there are complaining about Karen. I'm like, hon, I've had the name for a lot more. So and that's the one thing I said, learn AI, because that's
Yes.
every job interview or job description I've looked at for the past 2 years has all been AI. And it's not what you know, it's how do you use it? How do you use these tools to make yourself more efficient, to improve work processes, to save money, to add value, to to make it a real tool. And I think it's funny because I feel like young people are split between the AI, AI everything. They don't even Google anymore. They just ask ChatGPT. Don't do that. Do not.
Nope.
ChatGPT is not a
Yes.
search engine. Stop it. Stop it now. Um, Learn how to search. But and then the other side is I've got equally, I know, kids of friends that are just like, AI is a plagiarism machine. It is the devil, and it's draining all of our rivers. And I'm just like, but
Yeah.
it's not going
Yeah.
away,
It's not.
right?
Right.
If we're not in these conversations, then we can't direct how it's used. So if you don't want it to be a plagiarism machine, you need to be in there and be able to say, hey, this is, whatever. I don't think this is an effective use of AI because blah, 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 blah. But AI is really good at crunching data. I mean, I just
Yeah.
used it the other day to go through over 1,000 bits of feedback, which would have taken me a few days
Yeah.
at least, from surveys to upgrade a course. So a lot of that course analysis that I did, that I normally would do at the beginning of a course because it's an update, teacher feedback, student feedback, client feedback, you know, that's a
Yep.
week's worth of sitting there looking at a lot of dull things. Boom, I could get that was done and much quicker. And it was just like, wow, and then I can get to the fun, creative things of, oh, now that I have these data points, I now know, I am now can take longer to actually design as opposed to throwing things together, which, every world insiders, I say the ADDIE process is, that's one of the big, for those of the audience, that's one of the instructional design process is an acronym. So it's, supposed to be analyze, design, develop, implement, evaluate.
Right.
All the projects I've ever worked on have been analyzed, maybe design, develop, crap, we're running out of money, just get it done. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's the they're like, how do you use the edit process? Well, I get through this and then I just have to get it done. But that's one of the things, like, that's where I can say AI has saved me 50% of my time. It allowed me to add, take that 50% that I saved and add it into the quality of the course. And so now I have,
Yep.
improved that course by 50% because I saved this time and I was able to do a lot. So yeah, like, look whatever industry you're in, and very few industries are not going to be touched by AI.
Yep.
But how do you use it? What tools are out there? How are other people using it? And make your case. Make your case for, I'd rather write this by hand because I want my voice to shine through and I don't want to have to take out all the stupid M dashes because people will think that's AI. They
Right.
just got it right there. Or, you know, I tried coding this. It's very, it's a, this code is very technical or whatever, and it's just faster. I can do it faster myself because I'm now fighting with codecs or whatever to get it right. And, but, on the other hand, it was really good for this. So those are the conversations you need to have, and you need to be able to talk intelligently, or else you're going to get written off, and it's just going to be there.
Yeah. I'm gonna
So
tell you too, and Gibby, I still want to hear your thoughts. Um, in the unemployment race, uh, AI is like in there. Like I will tell you, being unemployed, I had to use AI as to be my best friend to get the stuff out. Now, of course, I went back and constantly looked and made my changes and all those things to make sure my resume aligned with what I needed to do. But like I was so surprised. I'm not even gonna lie to you. That's how my AI growth got really, really skilled because I had to look for jobs, and I had to make sure my resume was aligned to whatever it needed to be aligned to. Of course, I went back to make sure that it was correct. But you're fighting with, like you said, 3,000 to 10,000 people. you have to go through this strenuous process of using the ATS, the applicant tracking system, and now they're using AI with that to pinpoint certain things. And so this is one thing I told my friend in another podcast. I said, everyone now is a gamer. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm sorry. But like when you're on the job search, like when people say, I'm not a gamer, I was like, yes, you are. Like, what do you mean? What did you use to find your job? I had to do this and this and this. Welcome. Because you had to decode, you had to pull out certain words. If you're using AI to do certain things to beat that system, so you can be ahead of the 3,000, 10,000 other people, even though we know we have to network, you're playing that game with AI. So no matter if you're using Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, whatever, some people are using that to make sure that they're getting ahead. We've seen all those ads too, where the things are on the screen and they're telling you like it's picking up what the interviewer is saying, and you say this, and they can't see. Like you're trying to use whatever tool to make sure that you're gonna get that next paying job. And so I say all that to say is don't use it to cheat, but you are going to have to be versed in it a little bit. You are going to have to understand some skill of AI in order to be productive in some said job. Now, I don't know if it's being like a janitor or something, but I mean it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So that is a skill set that you're going to have to learn how to use and master, and that's everybody across the board now. It's so scary. But Gibby, I'm going to give you a floor, and I want to hear what your thoughts are. Pushback, whatever it is that you need to do.
Okay. No, I'm very much along with what Deb said. And what you were just saying about job searching, that was my first foray into using ChatGPT more in a daily use. I was definitely taking my resume and the job descriptions and seeing where it was aligning and asking chat to give me pointers on what would make it better, or hey, rewrite this section so that way it would help me get an interview or get my foot in the door. And so the real life use of it, and I've always been an early adapter of technology, so I'm always finding what I can use next, getting the next pair of blue light glasses that have in ear microphones and speaker systems. But like whenever I started looking at it from a teaching standpoint, we have to be able to use it in the classroom. Students are using it left and right. How can we make sure that they're using it to, one, learn from the process and not just copy and paste, but what's the actual learning going through there? That's the process that we have to try and basically combat. You can't just tell kids that you don't use it. They're going to be using it anyway. How can we inform them to say, all right, well, help me make an outline of what I should be writing then as my own thoughts, as opposed to write my entire 10-page paper for me. Just give me an outline, and then I can have points to put in myself and add my own flair, my own voice. As an educator, we've been using it. We have magic school in our district, and it's been great for lesson planning, making curriculum documents, getting things quicker. So that way, my planning, I can actually get some grading done on top of also making a new set of problems for probability based on Magic the Gathering cards, so some fun things instead of the same old. And then also at a district level, I was a part of our AI committee because I'm an early adopter. I was helping look at all the systems. We set up a program and had all the departments in our academic subjects upload the curriculum documents and our scope and sequence, and have AI look at it and see, how does this relate to the Pennsylvania Department of Education standards for Algebra 1 and Algebra 2? Where is it missing the point? And it gave some good feedback. And, we might be already teaching the subject, but the objective was off a little bit. So it didn't catch it as well. So we could go in and find those misalignments, and we can adapt and change them and make them better for the next school year. So it was cool to do that audit. It's cool to make some new, engaging activities. And also, how can we make sure that students understand it? There's lots of cool online resources. I had my intro to computer science students test out IBM's AI literacy mini course, so that way they could get an industry micro credential,
Nice.
learn about how it works, what not to do with it, what it actually does with power and water and, the systems that are being created. And do we really need those massive computer systems all over? Or can we have a couple? So it made them think about it and process a little bit more. So that was kind of neat.
Yeah, and I would say, like, even in the job search, Bradford, AI is saving my sanity. I mean, seriously, because we've probably all done the job search pre AI, you know, and I used to have like the monster resume of everything. And, I would just brain dump, like, what have I done and all that. And after a while, I just don't know words. I'm just like, I just said, what did you do with this job? I don't know. I did things and the curriculum and it was great and yay. And I sat in an office, right? And after you've written, you're in that job, you know, the job search, it's like, oh God, I don't know how to say this anymore, or I forgot about this. And that's the nice thing about AI is it is I can put in my stream of consciousness nonsense. I need to say this. This is what I've done. This is, how can I write me a bullet point. I need to update my resume. Help me write a bullet point. This is what I've done. Um, you know, for this job. Da 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 da. Or this job is focused, like, again, being a K-12 specialist. For subjects. Sometimes it's a STEM job. Sometimes it's ELA. So I want to pull out different things, and having AI, like, being able to boilerplate that pretty quickly, um, is, again, it's a time saver and it's a sanity saver, because yeah, before it was a lot. It would be like, oh crap, I need to do a job application. It's going to take me at least half a day, 3 or 4 hours to do this, because I want to read through it. I want to make sure I'm, conscious of this. I want to rewrite this stuff. And now it's, maybe if it's an hour, that's what I'm like really digging into something. Um, and it's just and then the other thing is, they're all boilerplate stuff. I mean, again, your resume is showing that you're qualified, and then that's getting you in the door. So it's not this golden document that's like,
Right.
oh, it's it used to be. And I think that's another paradigm shift too with that, is, again, listening to, you know, the people, what they're saying about that is, it's, again, and a lot of stuff, like, especially if you get an automatic rejection, like, I just applied and I got rejected, and that's AI. It's not. It's probably a knockout question. It's probably, do you know this? Do you know that? Or whatever. They are looking, so the knowing how to do those is probably a knockout question that's like, do you have experience in X? And you said no, and it was like, goodbye. So that's what they said when they have.
Yep.
Right. And then you figure out, okay, and it's, yeah. So I think that's, people need to take that in stride, because otherwise you're going to kill yourself. You're going to, like, major burnout, and it's then it turns into, why am I not good enough? And you get into the sneaky hate spiral of that, and it's just like, it's a tool, use it. No one cares.
Absolutely.
I mean, people do care, but it's,
you
not
gotta game the system.
Right, and you're not going to drain the planet just for updating your resume. I mean, it's okay. Your neighbor who has their perfectly manicured lawn, that's out there watering their lawn at 2 o'clock in the afternoon during a drought, is doing more to the planet than you are spending half an hour with ChatGPT. So
you hit a controversial button right there.
You people in deserts who insist on golf courses need to have a think. So yeah, and it's one of those multitask, and it's get in the conversation, know how it works, be able to have those conversations so that you're not left behind. And then you can shape the policy, and the policy could be no AI. We're not using AI on this because we want to be whatever, authentic. We do it better personally. Right. Security concerns, that's a big one.
Oh yeah.
Security concerns, say probably we shouldn't, use this because this is sensitive information. we need to do this,
I think
without AI.
I think the biggest thing too is if you're going to use it, be prepared to speak on it, because even if you make this grand, elegant resume, they're going to be able to ask you some questions. So if you're just getting the outcome of it, you need to be prepared to make sure that you're able to speak on those things, and be prepared if said HR person or whoever is going to call those previous jobs, that you did those things. So that's one thing that I think is important. So yeah, use it, but be prepared to speak on it. And I think I told you this, Deb, but Gibby, I didn't tell you the irony of all of this too. Is, I'm not going to go into detail about where I work because this is Tinker Tech EDU, but I had to laugh because the place that hired me, I got hired based off of my relationships, who I talked to, the conversations, and a Google form. And I just was like, you're laughing. I'm like,
That's great.
this is the
I've had a
crazy.
couple Google form resumes, and or Google form applications, and I'm just like,
I
use
did
the
a couple
tools you
then.
have.
Use the
Yep.
tools that
Yeah.
and I chuckled at it because I can't go all into what we're doing, but it leads into the conversation of putting that human in place and going, all right, there's all of these tools and we know that they're using everything, but I'm going to use this and I'm going to ask Bradford these questions because I want to make sure that what I'm reading, because I am reading these, is what he's saying. And so I chuckled at it so hard because I'm like, out of all the places that I apply, all the systems, all the grandiose things, and I'm not saying you don't do some of those things, but I got noticed by, and maybe, and hopefully my supervisor is not listening to this. He may talk to me tomorrow, but like I'm saying great things about it, but like it was just these simple steps that I had to do that wasn't so grand, and I really appreciated that. I was like, wow, like all the like we need to get back to that. And I understand that there's 10,000 people, 3,000 people that are unemployed, but for the companies, like let's take a step back because like you said, that the minute they're putting in their resume, 1 minute later they get that rejection back, but they spent 5 hours perfecting that resume, making sure that it's aligned, but there was one blip and you lost everything. So yeah, I say all that to say, my young students, adults, or whatever, use the tools that you have, but be prepared to also speak on it because they're going to ask you questions. They're going to ask you questions. We are way over.
Oh, can I can I follow this up? I really want to
Yes,
follow this up. Sorry, I'm like, I know I did one. So on that, a couple weeks ago, on LinkedIn, I had the Beyond the Dungeon, role playing games that were, or analog role playing games that weren't D&D, because one of the things that I keep seeing is lots of people are talking about D&D in the classroom, which is awesome. I'm an old school D&D player, but I'm like, there's so much more out there, and so I use Gemini LLM, or no, sorry, Notebook LLM, which is like now my new favorite tool, to
That's
put
pretty
in
cool.
all my thoughts, to put in all these systems that I knew about. And this is, I did a 5-part series on, each day was a different type of analog tabletop role playing game, and people loved it. And the cool thing
That's so cool.
about, yeah, about Notebook is it'll do a deck for you. It'll create the slide deck, and you can go in and tell it what you like, and you can modify each slide, which it's all over LinkedIn. It's overused, but I'm like, this is giving me the tool to get this stuff out of my head that I've been wanting to do for ages now, that I talk about in front of people. And it was a huge feel like, I love this. Can I have the list and whatever? And I had a meeting at the end of for an interest group meeting. And one of the guys said, loved your series. And I saw those AI slides, but I knew it was coming from you, and that what you're talking about. And that, I think, that hit home to me of, you need your authentic voice. Whatever it is you do, get an opinion about it, be educated about it, talk about it. And even if it's something wackadoodle like indie tabletop games, or whatever, if it's in your industry and that's what you want to go into, you be a voice. And so when people, and if you use those AI tools, then you have the authenticity and the expertise to back it up, because you will see on LinkedIn so many people trying to be an expert, and you're looking at this stuff and you're like, that's poser nonsense or whatever,
Yeah.
or there, and it's just like, but you can see, right? You can see like they're trying to be like, if I see one more person do like instructional design 101 with one of those AI infographics, I'm going to be like, I'm like, scroll by, because you're not
Yeah, I
adding
guess I need
anything to
to
the
stop. No.
conversation, right? No, but it's like, and we've had
Yeah.
this conversation too, the analog skills behind the digital, and
Yes.
that needs to show through, because then people will know, oh, they know something and they know the tool and I can trust what they're doing.
I will. Yeah, I agree with that, and not to put a shameless plug on Notebook LM, but one of the things I do like about that is it will allow you to be your authentic self because it can't pull from anything else. So you have to put certain documents in, certain things in. If you can do other documents from everybody else, but if there's something that you've created, you can dump it in there and and have that conversation to get the outcomes that you need. But they're pulling from the information
Yeah.
that you're putting in. And everybody, if you have a Google account, you already got access to it. That's the biggest thing. You don't have to pay for it. I recommend starting from there and putting things that you need to put in there. The second thing I'm going to say too is I'm working on a video where, like, one thing I recommend that people do is think about the skills that you do on a daily basis, um, and record that. And what I mean by that is you don't need to do this every day. One of the things that I've started doing is, if like, man, like, I had this really great conversation with my supervisors, Gibby and Deb, and I was showing them this, doing da 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 da, and it was great. I need to be able to pocket that somewhere. So one of the things that I do is I turn on my Google, and I turn on the voice chat. And I just said, I had this thing today where I did this, 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 and I just talk it through.
Mhm.
Shout out to Angie for teaching me this, but I just talk it through, and it's a whole bunch of gobbledygook. But then I'm asking Gemini to do like a couple of things. I need you to clean this up,
Mhm.
and I also need you to make me like a mock resume of the skill that I did that day.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is
That's
so
cool.
good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm gonna do a video on it, and I do a
That's so
caveat.
cool.
I do a caveat on saying, like, this isn't the real resume. You need to go out
Yeah.
and make sure that you're searching for whatever.
Right.
But what I also do with that is I say I need you to break down based off of what I talked about. What were some of the skills that you saw? So like in that one day, like, oh, you did transferable skills in this. You did this with Debbie. You did this with Gabby. I'm like, wow, I did all those things in one day. At first, I
Uh-huh.
wanted to do
That's
this
cool.
every day, but I'm like, you can't. That's not sustainable. So anytime I have that aha moment where it's personal or professional, I have a folder where I'm just dumping, and then I'm having it organized, and then I have it create that generic resume to go like, oh, y'all should see some of the stuff that it says I've been doing. Like, oh, you've done this with AI and this, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. Those are skill sets that you can pull out, but you got to still figure out like where that fits into the jobs that you're doing or whatever. But still, now we have to start keeping track of what skills we're doing on a professional and personal basis, because you never know who you're going to talk to. I have to share some of my stuff
Right.
with y'all because like it's on point. Last question.
You know the words too. That's the other thing, is like you need to be able to speak it in the words, the
And use
language.
it. Yep.
Right. Like that's another learning curve too. Like optimize the funnel. I'm like, what funnel? What am I optimizing? At scale? What do I do? What? And that's what you can do. It's like, but and it's like that's, yeah, being able to get that, oh, this is what they want to hear, or I'm interviewing with this type of person. Like, are you interviewing with a director versus a team lead? Then you need to be able to talk to them individually, and they're going to be looking for different things. And that's
Yeah.
like, and they have their own vocabularies, and it's just all that stuff, like, yeah, I just feel like, again, yelling at clouds. Like,
Love it.
it's a whole new, language, and well, I mean, not totally new, but
It's a
it's
skill.
like,
It's a new skill set that
It's
we
just
need to learn. It's
yeah,
a skill. It's a skill. This is gonna be we might have to do a part two later. I don't know when we're gonna do it, but I'm loving the responses. I'm loving our talks with this. This is so needed. But this is the last question. I'm gonna base this off of our new graduates and they're getting out into the 2026 working world. What happens if college, work, or just plain life doesn't go the way I planned?
what do you mean? What happens if that will happen? That's just like, what do you
Yeah.
do when this happens? Right? I think that's number one, is you have to get that in your brain. Life is a journey, not a guided tour. Um, that's what I keep saying. How did you get, that's the first thing I say. How did you get where you're on? Life's a journey, not a guided tour. Because they look at my resume and you're like, theater, museum studies, education, Department of Events, Smithsonian, this and that. What? I mean, it's like, no, stuff that I have. And this is what happened. And this is where I pivoted here. And I think that's number one. Get that in your little brain. Then go, Gibby, because I've been talking this entire time. This is this.
You're right. Things aren't going to always pan out the way that you think that they're going to, but there might be something better then that happens or comes along. Or, I went into college thinking I was going to be a business major and teach computer science. And that didn't exist in Pennsylvania. We didn't have that whenever I was going through college. So I had to do business and I hated it. So I switched to math. I switched mid college
because math is
to
easier.
math. Yeah, at the time I thought this is great. Like I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but the direct path, I didn't know where I was going. But now, last summer, I took and passed the computer science praxis. So now I am a certified computer science teacher. So 18 years ago, I didn't know I would get to this way, but it took a little bit longer. But here I am. So you're right. Things will pan out the way that they need to. Sometimes my daughter's favorite show right now is Just Roll With It. So you just have to roll with it. And you can't just expect to always have everything go your way either. But you've got to be able to be resilient, pick yourself back up, roll with the punches, look for the good in everything that you're doing. And it has a way of working itself out.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to tell you this, and this is something that shocked the hell out of me because I have never used this before. I had to prepare my daughter for her internships. I don't know if she's listening or not, but I said I was going to talk about it. So I was helping her prepare for questions, but there was one question. The one question that they asked her was, that whole where do you see, I may be butchering it, but where do you see yourself in 5 years or whatever? This is what she said. I was like, damn, I need to say that. She goes, well, I have 3 alternative paths. I said, what? I said, you told them that? They loved it. She goes, I have this trajectory and this trajectory and this trajectory. So if one thing I know doesn't work, I'm prepared to shift to go here. I'm prepared to shift to go here. I'm prepared to shift and go here because I have all of these skills. And I just looked at her and I said, I have never been bold enough to say I have 3 alternative routes. Not because something doesn't pan out, but what she was saying is I'm prepared to shift because I'm thinking I can go here, I can go here, and I can go here. And no matter what industry I'm in, these are the skills that I'm going to bring in. And I was like, you're 24 years old. I did not even have that figured out at 24. And
Nope.
I'm sitting here applying, but I never thought to say, here's where I see my directions going. My directions. Not about here's what I want to do for a company. It was about her. Here's where I see myself going, and I'm sure I'm sure the plans aren't solid, but she was prepared to say these are the ways I want to go. no matter what the shift is. I'm going to be prepared for this, this, or this. And I said, that aligns to where you guys are at right now because your careers are not 20 years anymore. Your careers are every 3 to 5 years. That's the reality. And I'm wondering if she got that because she's seen me shift, but still stay in the tech space. I don't know. But
Right.
I thought it was such a brilliant answer. And she said they love that answer. I said, girl, I would love it too, because I would have never saw that.
I do too. Yeah.
Right. And it's
That's
about
amazing.
I think again the mind shift from what we the three of us, since we're older generation here, what the job market was even pre-pandemic. I mean, you think of I think of the pandemic as like last year, but it's not. And it's been like 6 years, right? And how that shifted. I know, right? It's like, oh my God. But if you look at the tech is changing so fast, and just even the cell phones that we had 6 years ago, the cell phones we had 10 years ago. But then you compare that to the 2000s, like early 2000s, the 1900s, and the early, it wasn't that this tech moved a lot slower, and then it's shorting and shorting. So I think young people today really need to look at not what I can do, but how can I add value? And you hear this a lot. And that's like even resume, like your resumes now, they say qualified everything. But, and I've heard this again from several job coaches, is your resume is addressing, or your job application is addressing how you're solving somebody else's pain. So that job vacancy, which is like a mind blower, it's not what can I do for this company or this position, but how am I fixing what needs to be fixed? What are their pain points in this job application, this list of things, and how do I solve that? And I think when you start thinking of yourself as I have, like you said, I have these skills. This is what and this is how I can make your company better, this company better, this project better, or whatever. This is how I add value to this, and this is where I can use it. And you see this a lot again in like the game industry. We're all kind of game industry people, and I'm not against teaching kids how to program and Unity and these engines and being game designer, but you're worse than a salmon swimming upstream at this point. You're a salmon swimming upstream with people with things throwing at you, being thrown at you, like fishermen trying to catch you, or bears and everything. It's such a battle. But if you look at, I have the skill to make interactive interactivities. I can do that anywhere. NASA uses in Unity. Corporations use it on their web pages to do advertising, or to develop apps that go along with their products. Other ed tech uses, game-based learning or interactive learning. I don't have to be in the game industry.
Right.
I can be in healthcare and design healthcare simulations. So, but my value is I know how to create a realistic real world simulation or thing or game like thing to do X, Y, and Z, to get more customers, to train people to be better doctors, to teach people about science, to analyze large chunks of data, to model real world simulation. That is my skill set. And I can take that so many more places than I want to go. I'm going to be a game designer. And these are, which is like, narrow. Not saying don't try that.
Yeah.
But that's one of those, what's my mind shift of like, I've been at this 6 months and I need to start paying, and I've rejection, because, every day is carnage in the game industry. Who got laid off this week? What game company is no longer around because they got acquired and dissolved? And you can always do games on the side too. That's, if you want to make games, do it on the side. Or if you want to do X, Y, and Z, do it on the side. But that's the pain points. How do you address a company's pain points? Boom. And
I agree with that. And I want to even say, I would even say this goes for your part-time first job, working at a retail store, candy store, whatever, garbage man, whatever it is. That I'm not trying to degrade those jobs, but I'm saying your first job that you're getting into, what value do you bring for them? What pain points can you help them solve? Because that's they're still looking for those people to help solve those problems. I'm looking in these, y'all can't see me with these corners, but like each, like I remember meeting each and every one of you, and I remember like where we all started and where we're at now. And it's completely night and day. Like Gibby, I don't know Debbie when I first met you, but I know I'm sure we were talking or doing something. I don't remember. You might.
It was at Serious Play. It was at Serious Play like 2 years ago.
But I thought it was before.
I don't know. Really? Maybe? I don't know. I know it was like in person. I thought it was Serious Play 2 years ago, literally the day after I got laid off.
It was the face to face, but there was somewhere where we connected somehow before then virtually.
Okay, it might have been on LinkedIn.
But I know Gibby for sure. We were Scholastic Fellows. I don't know if you were. We were in it together. I think
We were in the same
we were in
cohort.
the same class, so same cohort, and just feeding off of each other. And that was. Either way out, it was years ago, and that's where we start. That's where we started. But look at the different direction that we're at now, and I'm not saying that as a good or a bad thing. I'm looking at look at the skill sets that we've learned since we've all met each other. I would have never thought I would have been in the position that I am in now, and I'm saying that with love and respect. Looking at in the past, if you would have talked to Bradford in the past and saying you're going to be here, would have never thought about it. Would have never. I would have never pictured it. But it's the people and the connections that I'm learning from and growing with, sharing my pain and sharing my successes, because I'm learning now to like, Rafa, you got to share your pain. Did you know that so-and-so also got laid off? Or did you know this is happened to this person? Like, do you know they're also going through these struggles? But like, we're all growing together. And I watch both of you religiously when you're posting and you're sharing your ideas. Like, God, look at like what Deb is doing. Look at what Gibby is doing. It's so amazing. And that's one of the things that we also got to do is be able to cheer each other on whenever we're doing whatever. I know Deb, I mean, not to call you out, Gib, but because I know you do it when you do it, but Deb is one of my biggest cheerleaders I have ever seen. And I try to do the same for her, and I try to do the same for Gibby, but we all have to be there and go like, wow, look at what Deb did. Y'all need to be looking at what she's doing. You need to be looking at what Gibby's doing. He just got his computer science certification. Like, think of all the stuff like this dude now that has done esports and this. Now he's dangerous with computer science. Deb is doing instructional design stuff. She's done it tabletop stuff. She's done analog stuff. You need to be looking out for what she's doing. And that's a skill that we all need to start doing, no matter if we're young or old. So I've
learn how to
celebrate the growth.
Right, and learn how to be your authentic self without being smarmy. I think that's the other thing. Is because we all see that again. Don't write your. I mean, it's okay to hash out your ideas on LinkedIn. I mean, on ChatGPT, like for a LinkedIn post. I do it a lot for like I want to respond, but I don't want to sound like I don't want to sound smarmy, or I don't want to sound like I'm taking focus away. Like, how do I respond to this? There's some of that too, where you're like, oh, this is a really great idea. And we've all seen those people. Like, don't be that person that's like, this is really great. Cause and then they're like, and then they give you the whole resume of what they've done. And you're like, okay, dude, thanks. But it's about me now. This is my post. This is about me. But be authentic and go for it. I guess the flip side is again, like we are kind of like, there's like two sides, I think, thinking about this too. Cause I'm thinking like my oboe teacher, wonderful lady. She's, one of the oboes for the Marine Band, President's Own, elite of the elite. But that's like talking, and we were talking with one of the college students. So I take lessons as an adult student through a community college, which is awesome. And she's got her little studio. But there's also like community college kids. There's, so we've got a couple music majors in our studio too. And we were talking, to this one girl, and she's like, yeah, I don't know. Do I want to go music ed? I really like performance or whatever. And so Tessa, my teacher, was like, this is the only, like when I picked up the oboe in middle school, this is the only thing I wanted to do. And she worked her ass off, but she knew she was going to have to do that. She knew going in to be a professional oboist, in the Marine Band. I don't know if she wanted to be in the Marine Band or at the beginning, or if she wants to be, I want to be a professional oboist at Major Symphony or whatever. the uphill climb to that is kind of like going into the game industry. You've got to audition, you've got to be back, you've got to be on your toes, but you've got to want it. She said you've got to want it more than anything else in the world, and she did. And I think that's valid, but it's very, very hard. But it's like, and when I was talking about, like I said, yeah, but look at me. I love playing oboe. I was never a major, but you always have the opportunity to play. So even if you don't even if you go into oboe performance and you don't end up being a performance, don't end up doing it professionally, there are semi-pro jobs, there are part-time jobs. You can always teach. A good friend of mine was an oboe major, studied with some of the best in the United States. He's a software developer now. I know. And I think those are the two sides. You either, be realistic about, this is what I want to do. I want to be a game designer. I want to work for Axis. I want to work for Bethesda. I want to work for whomever. All right, awesome. Go for it. But no, it's going to be very, very hard. Or I have these skills. I'm not sure, where am I useful? I think those are the two sides of kind of the job thing. And it's okay to switch. It's okay to go, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm now,
Change your mind.
I will now do something else. And it's okay to sit there and be an oboe performance major and then go, I'm going to develop software because
you can develop
your
the skill
life.
set.
And
and have that plan, because I think a lot of people want to know, okay, so you're going to do this. Well, what is your plan? And it's okay if it's raw and nerdy right now, but you have a plan. I think that's the biggest thing that I know people I get concerned with, like, oh, I want to be, and we're going to go in your oboe example. I want to be an oboe player. Okay, well, what you going to do with that? I know I'm giving you the side eye, but you tell me your plan. Well, I'm going to do this, and this, and these are.
How are you going to get there? Yeah. Right. What's realistic? What's the realistic thing of how you're going to get there? You're going to audition 500 times. You're going to be rejected 500 times. You might audition for the same organization, the same group 3 or 4 times and and get knocked out, and then get in there on the 4th time, or something, or whatever. Or you might be picked up by somebody else who says, I heard you at this audition. Can you come play with us? We need a temporary sub, But to me, be realistic about that. And it's, or on the flip side, same thing, every job interview is an opportunity, even if you do not get the job. Because I've gotten callbacks a year later, 2 years later, and I have to be like, please remind me where you are now and what you're doing. You go, oh, that was that. It's like, oh, thank you. Yes, this sounds familiar. Why do I know you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, final thoughts, because I got to close, because I got to, speaking of transition, I got to transition to streaming. But final thoughts, and I'm gonna give you guys the floor. What's some final words of wisdom that you can say to our graduating class, our young adults, our young youths, or even your 13-year-old that's as a teenager? Like, what are some things that you all advice that you would want to give?
I'd say try new things, look for places to learn and grow. You may not always be in the math classroom. You might end up doing esports. You might end up doing some gaming or computer science. And like Deb said, life is a journey. So just roll with it.
Yeah, I'd say network. Talk to as many people as you can. Be hungry for that knowledge, because you never know, when an opportunity is going to come along, and by opportunity, I mean, those aren't all jobs. It might be an opportunity of, hey, I see this is a need in an industry. I can learn that skill and I can help people do that. So I think you've got to look at the big picture of not only like, what are my skills? What do people need and how do I fit in? And always be evaluating that. And I think the more people you talk to, the more jobs you research, the more that will open up more opportunities. And a lot of times it'll be opportunities that you didn't know were there or didn't realize, like skills and that you didn't know that you had that people want. And I think that's a lot of that. Like you said, Bradford, I mean, your job came from a Google form and a connection, and it wasn't my job came from random recruiter found me on LinkedIn. What? That's fine. And then, and other connections too. But yeah, that's, look at your career's opportunities and how you can take advantage of them. Skill, connections, industries,
I,
you know.
I agree. And I'm going to end it with uh, follow your passion, share your passion, and also have a plan for that passion. No matter if it's raw or if it's the perfect plan, if you're gonna go with your passion, make sure like we were talking about with the oboe player, like make sure that you have those plans because you are gonna get a lot of people that gonna give you that side eye. But if this is something that you truly believe in, follow it. Talk about your plan. Share it out in the digital space. I'm gonna tell y'all that right now. That's the biggest thing. Like, I don't care. Like we go back to the oboe player, but I don't care if it's the oboe player, or if it's esports or it's whatever. Share that content out there because people don't know what you do. They're gonna look you up. You can easily speak it. I want you to speak it. I want you to talk about it, but also have a place where here's where I'm sharing what my passion is so you can understand that this is where I'm going. That is the big thing now. No matter if it's in LinkedIn, that was a conversation I was going to talk about later, but not now. No matter if it's LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever, or on a website, share it. Share your thoughts. Share your plan. Share your struggles. I'm learning that right now. Share your struggles. Professionally speaking, share your struggles. So
Yeah.
but
Be authentic. Be authentic about it.
Be
I think
authentic,
that's like people want that authenticity. But like I don't want to say don't be a whiner because every now and then you have to be like, y'all, this has been a week. Can we just I just need to say this right now. But don't be, but be authentic about it because people want to know that they're not alone. And you're not alone.
I love it. I love it. Guys, thank you so much. We are way over, but these are stuff that
It was such a good conversation.
this is something that I feel like needed to be said. Again, this was on my heart, and I'm glad that you all had a chance to talk about this and share your stories. I do want. I forgot to put the link up, so if you have more questions, I'm going to probably put that in the show notes because I know this is going to be in YouTube or as well. So if you have more questions, please share it out. Where can people get in touch with you and get insights from you all? I'll start with Deb first.
Oh wow. I would say I should have shot you my link tree, but I'm on LinkedIn, Deb Fuller Deb Fuller on LinkedIn. I look like the blonde. So yeah, people can ping me there or debfuller@gmail.com. Please don't abuse it. But I'm pretty much that's one thing I do. You talking about an early tech adopter. If there's like a new platform or something, I try and grab my name really quickly so that somebody else doesn't grab it. Yeah, pretty much. If there's a Deb Fuller out there, chances are
It'll be yours.
It'll be me. Yeah. Lots of people think they're me too. And I'm just like, yeah, that's the other flip side is like, no, you want somebody else. This is not your email address. Because I've had it for 25 years.
Yeah.
More. Yeah.
Gibby, what about you? Where can we get all of your awesomeness from?
Yeah, definitely check out my LinkedIn profile, Alexander Gibson. I use my full name. If you want to look me up on Instagram, it's Gibso_ale. It was one of the coolest usernames I ever got for my first district, so I've been using it since. And that's also, I'm on Blue Sky with that as well. So any of those three.
Nice. And I'm going to make sure all of that's in the show notes for me. You guys, I just have it simple. Just go to linkapp.com /edtechticker and all that stuff is there. Or you can go to my website, tickertechedu.com. And in the next hour, I shift and I am going to be doing my Death Stranding series. So it's at 9 p.m. So it's in the next hour. I usually do it at 6 p.m. But I wanted to make sure that we talk about this session. So if you want to see more of what I do from a streaming gaming perspective and how I align all of these skills, go to tinkertechedu.com/live-events. Go to your favorite platform, and you can watch me stream for an hour because I'm going to make sure it's an hour because I got stuff I have to do. But I will be on for an hour, maybe follow up with some of these ideas that we talked about today. And that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for being on. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next LinkedIn Live. So, again, thank you, Gibby. Thank you, Deb, for doing this and being, like I always said, my road dogs. I have a lot of road dogs, and you're one of them.
Yep.
So I appreciate everything you do. So, guys, we will see you next time. Again, you can catch these wonderful people. I'll put if their webs, I'll say social information. I'll put that in the show notes. So talk to you guys later.
Okay,
Have a
bye.
good one.
Bye.